Nano Banana and Kling AI offer a great combo when it comes to video production. We've already seen that Nano Banana can keep your images very consistent between the edits, and once you've got these images, you can turn them into starting and ending frames, and the gap in between can be perfectly bridged by something like KLING 2.1. For example, if we have this particular image, we can ask Nano Banana to take the woman out of the frame and keep everything else consistent. Get an image like this, use this as the starting and the ending frames inside Kling, and then animate it and get a result like this. However, just recently, Nano Banana's authority has been challenged because ByteDance have come out with Seedream 4, which is a direct competitor to Nano Banana. So we're also going to be seeing if it can actually produce better images than Nano Banana, because if that's the case, then it becomes an all-Chinese affair. This is on the image side of things, but even on the video side of things, we will be comparing the results that we get from Kling to Seedance 1.0 and Midjourney Video, both of which also allow you to use starting and ending frames. There is a surprise cameo by two forgotten tools, Photoshop and, believe it or not, by Sora AI, because you're going to realize for simple videos, things can be done with just the starting and ending frames that you get inside Nano Banana or Seedream. However, for the more complex videos, you do need some intervention which can come in the form of these tools. The process is going to remain simple. We're going to start off with a base image. We're going to be seeing 5 different examples. In all the examples, this base image is going to be a real life image. We are going to edit this to form the end frame inside Nano Banana and also Seedream 4. Whichever of these gives us the better result, we're going to take that, and in this process we will find out whether Seedream 4 is actually the Nano Banana killer or not. To make the images look better, we're going to upscale them using Enhancer. Once we have everything ready, we get the motion prompt inside ChatGPT. Ultimately, we can use that in Kling. And also in some examples, we'll be seeing how to do that in Midjourney and Seedance just to see if they can do a better job than Kling. So let's start this process. For the first example, I'll show you everything in detail. And for the remaining examples, I'll just show you the frames, the prompts, and the results. As always, the links to all the tools and the images are given in the description so you can work along with me. So for this first example, we've got this particular image, and what we want ultimately in the video is that the camera should rotate in a smooth manner and go right in front of him as it shows the close-up of this man from the front angle. So first of all, let's do this inside Nano Banana to get the ending frame of that close-up shot. So right now I'm using LM Arena to access Nano Banana. Under direct chat, make sure you are on Gemini 2.5 Flash image. I've already uploaded the image here, and the prompt is simple: recreate this scene so it is a close-up shot of the man from the front. We're actually going to copy this because I will need it for Seedream 4.0 also. So we're going to hit this till the time this is cooking. Let's actually see how to access Seedream 4.0. Now, this is not a free tool, so you will need one of the all-in-one AI apps. The cheapest one probably being Fall AI, because here it's not subscription based. You can simply top up and use it. And it's very cheap because each edit will cost you 3 cents. So even with a $10 top up, you will be able to create over 300 images. Sometimes when you create your account on Fall AI for the first time, they do give you a $1 credit for free. If that's the case and you're lucky, you will be able to use it almost more than 30 times. But once you are on Fall AI and you do have some credit, we're just going to go down here and you can see by ByteDance Seedream version 4 edit. So we're going to select this. Let's upload the base image right here. Then we can paste in the prompt right here, which we used for Nano Banana also. One thing about Seedream, which is slightly different than Nano Banana, is you do get some additional options. For instance, if I just go down here and click this More button, I can change the aspect ratio. I can also increase the resolution all the way up to 4K. It just takes more time, but you can do that. I can also change the number of images. Another significant difference between Nano Banana and Seedream 4.0, which can be very important for a lot of people, is that Seedream basically has no censorship. So when it comes to NFSW images, this is far more liberal than Google will ever be. So just keep that in mind. But is it as good as Nano Banana when it comes to the edits? We're going to find that out because we are going to hit this run button right now and let's wait for the result. Let's go back to Nano Banana and let's see the result. And you can see that Nano Banana followed this prompt to the T, and you can see that we've got a fantastic result. So if we compare this with the original, yes, we don't know from the original how this man actually looked like, but as long as most of the things look very consistent, I think it's done a pretty good job. Now let's have a look at Seedream's results. So you can see here, if we just open this up, even this is not bad. But what I've seen often with Seedream is that sometimes the face can have a lot of issues, a lot of distortions, and oftentimes with the fingers, it can still produce those AI artifacts that we had gotten so used to in the earlier image generation models. Also, because we want the camera to go right in front of him, the result produced by Nano Banana just seems much better because this definitely seems more square in the angle as compared to this. So even though it's a pretty close contest, I think we're going to select the image by Nano Banana as the winner. Now, in this particular case, we may not need to upscale the base image because we really can't see the man. But when it comes to this particular image, we'll definitely have to put this through Enhancer because remember, this is going to be the ending frame. This is where the focus of the viewer is going to be when that video is about to finish. So let's go to Enhancer and let's make this better. So this is Enhancer. I've gone to the upscaling option here, uploaded the image. I'm going to make sure I click this option that says, yes, my image is a portrait. So it doesn't change the face too much, though in this case, it doesn't really matter because in the first frame, like I said, you could not see his face anyway. But the main difference will be in just the overall quality of the image and especially the texture on the skin. So let's wait for this result. All right, so the result is ready. And if I just open this up, this is what we started off with. This is straight out of Nano Banana, which is known to soften the skin a bit. So this step is almost mandatory because you can see this takes it from an AI image to a photograph. And this will be important because that's where the focus of most of the video is going to be once it animates inside Kling AI. Now that we've got both our frames, you can head over to something like ChatGPT where I uploaded both these and I just kind of described the motion that I wanted for the camera. ChatGPT is great at understanding this. And you can see that, yes, here's the KLING 2.1 prompt for you. And I got this nice prompt. So let's take this over to Kling. So I'm using Kling via the all-in-one AI app called OpenArt. Of course, you can do it through different ways. You can do it directly through Kling's app also. But here I basically selected KLING 2.1 as the model, starting and ending frames that we just produced. We already got the prompt from ChatGPT. And I went down, I selected 10 seconds as a duration, and the quality mode was set to Pro. And when I did create this video, since I've already done it, this was the result. And I think this looked really, really nice. So let's just play this right from start. And just that smile at the end, I think that was really, really beautiful. And this is the reason, because most of the focus stays on the man throughout the video. That's why it's very important to upscale it so that the texture can look realistic. Let's also see Midjourney's result just so that you can appreciate Kling, because Midjourney obviously can do the same thing with the starting and ending frames. These were the 4 results that I got. Let me open one of them up. So let's go for this one. And you can see here the movement of the camera was just too quick and it just didn't have that cinematic effect that we got out of Kling. Maybe this time he was smiling a bit more, so that worked in favor of Midjourney. But overall, I mean, let's be honest, there's no comparison of this result with what we got out of Kling. For the next example, I wanted a transformation effect where this man turned into something like someone who's wearing the Iron Man suit. So I basically uploaded both these images inside LM Arena. So the first edit was inside Nano Banana. The prompt was simple. Turn this man into a robot wearing the dark Iron Man suit. It should look photorealistic. The important thing here that I was looking out for in the edit was that the outline and the structure in the original image has to stay the same so that ultimately when the transformation happens, there's not too much of a movement. Otherwise, we won't be able to sell the effect. If you look at Nano Banana's result, it really maintained the outline from the original very well. However, this was Seedream's result, which was just not usable for what we were going in for. Also, it just did not look good when you look at the quality of the suit. It just did not look photorealistic when you compare it to Nano Banana's result. So here also, the winner was Nano Banana. The prompt to animate it was a very long one that I got inside ChatGPT, but basically it described each of those parts changing. And once I put these as starting and ending frames inside Kling, this was the result. Let's also see Midjourney's result. And you can clearly see that again, both Nano Banana and Kling just stood out from the rest. Let's look at example number 3. So this example was a bit challenging. Here we needed this woman outside the frame. So the prompt was recreate the scene in such a way that the woman in the painting has stepped out of it and is standing next to the wall. The people around her have moved and are not in the same position. This was important because ultimately we are going to turn this into a video and they will be walking. So Nano Banana did a pretty good job. You can see here, just kept everything consistent and just moved the woman out of the frame. I should point out this is the result post enhancer. That's why using an upscaler is very important, because the original image obviously had a very less resolution. That's still a problem with Nano Banana. However, that is not such a big problem when you compare it just to the result itself, especially of other tools like Seedream 4.0, because this was just a terrible result. Neither did it keep anything consistent, and you can see that same problem come up again, which I talked about before, that it distorts the face a lot. So this was of no use at all. So again, Nano Banana was the winner. When it came to the prompt, I actually tweaked the prompt that ChatGPT gave me almost 13 times to get the final result inside Kling, which looked something like this. There was another variation where I wanted the people to be slightly scared when they looked at something like this. So I just added that inside the prompt, and this was the result for that. And in my opinion, in both the cases, Kling just did a fantastic job with the prompt, especially again when you compare it to its counterpart, this time Seedance 1.0. This was the result. The next example was a challenging one, even for the likes of Nano Banana and Kling, as you're going to see. So we had this as the base image, and ultimately I wanted a woman to walk in and sit opposite to him. So the prompt was simple. A woman is sitting opposite to the man, and the man is smiling while looking at her. This was important because, remember, in the original image, he's looking at his phone, and if you don't change his reaction, when you animate this right at the end of the video, he might smile in between, but at the end, he will look back in the phone. So just remember these little details. So when I did use this prompt inside Nano Banana, we got this result, which right now looks absolutely fantastic, but you're going to see there are some minor issues with this. But there are no major issues, unlike Seedream 4, where it basically distorted the face as well as completely changed the composition. So again, there was no doubt Nano Banana was the winner, but when we do take this image and compare it to the original, there are bound to be a few problems. Let's see those. So even though the Nano Banana result looked really convincing, when you actually put these images, the base image and the new image on top of each other, right now I'm inside Photoshop, I've done it here, you will be able to see that there are some differences. So if I just hide this and make it visible, you can see there's just a slight shift in the composition. So that, for example, if you notice, the table is not exactly at the same place. And while this may not be such a big issue when it only comes to image editing, when you are animating this inside Kling, you will be able to notice that movement towards the end. Also, because I upscale these images using a creative upscaler like Enhancer, that is going to affect very small objects like the bottles, these little things here, and overall, it can just result in images which are not very consistent. So what is the solution to this problem? Well, we are looking at the solution because Photoshop can help us here in 2 steps. The first step is going to be where we align these images together. So if I just select both these layers, I can go over to Edit and hit this option which says Auto Align Layers and use the Auto mode and hope and pray that it does. And the very fact that it moved it and it aligned these layers is actually a compliment to Nano Banana. This wouldn't have happened if we had chosen the version with Seedream where the composition was vastly different than the original. Once we have these layers aligned, it solves one problem. Now we need to only localize the new changes that we got for the end frame where it really matters. And for this, what we can do is using the end frame layer, we can attach a layer mask in Photoshop, invert it, so we basically hide it, and then reveal it only in the areas that we want it to get revealed, which is going to be the part where the woman was sitting and this man had the changed expression. So I can take a brush with the white color and make sure I'm on the layer mask and only paint over that area carefully so that we do not change anything else from that base image. Right now, I'm being a bit fast, but of course, you will just have to be really careful when you do this properly. Of course, remember, we need to also do this for the man. So something like this. Also be careful about the little things, like you could see some people in the reflections. They're obviously going to move between 10 seconds. So we can make this brush a bit smaller and correct this also. Now, this is why even in the age of AI, it just helps to know the basics of manual editing tools like Photoshop also. And for this, I've got a perfect course for you, which is called Master Photoshop in 2 hours, simply because I've deliberately created this course in such a way that even a beginner can learn all these basics inside 120 minutes. It's available via Udemy. I'll leave a link to this course in the description. It is the fastest way to learn everything that actually matters inside Photoshop, even if you are a complete beginner. But right now, I had the frames ready with me. I also went ahead and created 2 more images, which were very easy to create, which were just medium close-ups of the man and the woman. Ultimately, again, this was the prompt that I used inside ChatGPT. This was the overall result that I got at the end, and you're going to see that even this result was not perfect. Let's analyze this. So right in that first part of the video, you could see everything was working fine. Only thing is when she comes near the table, there is this slight movement. Now, we can say that since she's sitting there, she's pushing the table, but it doesn't look like she's applying any force. And therefore, we have to say that this is an artifact. So you can see, even though we kept everything consistent between the 2 frames, sometimes this issue is coming because of Kling itself, and we really can't control it. And the only solution to this is to simply generate more videos and hope that you hit the jackpot. Let's see the next example. Now, this last example was a bit tricky. And the reason I'm showing you this inside a video editing software itself is because we're going to actually need this. So this was the starting frame. And for the ending frame, I wanted basically a monster to just come out from under the water. Nano Banana ultimately gave me such a frame, and this was easy enough for Kling to then bridge the gap and get a result like this. So up till now, no problem at all. But now I also wanted a second 10-second video where this boat is moving closer and the monster opens its mouth. Now, the way around this is you can go over to your first video, this one. If I just expand this timeline, I'm using Premiere Pro for this. You can do this anywhere. If I just manually go over to the last frame, I can export this frame. This becomes the starting frame for the next video. And then you repeat the same process where I can tell Nano Banana now that the monster should open the mouth. That then becomes the end frame and you animate it again. One advantage of using all-in-one apps like OpenArt is that once you do get your original video, they give you features like this where you don't actually need the video editing software to export such a frame. For example, OpenArt has this feature called grab frame to video, where I can just ask it to grab the last frame from the video and then it'll automatically put that inside Kling as the starting frame. But that is not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is these 2 videos always won't go well with each other. So just have a look at what happens when the second video starts here. So let's actually play this again so you'll be able to see this. Like I said, up till now, no problem. But this is where the second video starts. So there are 2 issues with this. Just see this again. One is there's a change in color. That's not such a big problem. We can always color grade inside any video editing software and at least get it to match that. But the problem is with the movement of how the boat is moving in the water. So just see, there's a difference now between this and suddenly it just picks up speed. And this can also be corrected, but this will require some advanced skills in editing. So what is the way around it? Well, To sell such an effect, what you'll need to do is you'll basically need to put something in between. So what I did was I basically wanted Nano Banana to create an image where we see just in between this, the whole scene from behind the monster. So we'll put that between the videos, and then at least someone who's watching this won't be able to notice the differences between the first video and the second video. Now, the trouble that I was having was neither Nano Banana nor Seedream were able to produce this 180-degree rotated shot. I tried every different prompt that I could imagine, and the only tool that ultimately worked here, believe it or not, was Sora AI. And it worked right on the first go, where I simply asked it to show a scene or recreate the scene so that we can see this from behind the monster. This was the result. Ideally, I would have liked to see the boat also, but the very fact that I finally got something like this was also pretty good. Ultimately, I put this inside Kling just as a single frame, and I got this result. And then we can put such a video in between the original videos. And again, it may not look too great, but because it serves as a distraction in between, it can just, distract the viewer and not notice those inconsistencies between the two videos. So this is one way out of such tricky situations. Of course, the simplest solution here would be to settle for a 10-second video, and right in the first end frame you ask Nano Banana to create a monster with an open mouth. It's just that for such a scene, such a short duration might just reduce the tension and the drama. The question in the beginning was, can it be an all-Chinese affair? With the demonstrations that we have just seen, Nano Banana seems irreplaceable, so the answer is no. But the next question is, can it be an all-American affair, and more specifically an all-Google affair? Because we're all waiting for VO3 to officially incorporate the start and end frame features, because that can be a game changer. Talking about game-changing tools, OpenAI is also about to release its very new image editor, which is gonna rival Nano Banana. In fact, we might just have got a glimpse to that when we edited the monster image, because it is rumored that Sora AI is already in some cases using that model. So there are a lot of questions to be answered, and when these tools do come out, I will be here to review them. Right now, when it comes to control and consistency in video production, there is no doubt that Nano Banana plus KLING 2.1 reigns supreme. In case this video helped you out, do give it a like, and for more AI tutorials, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you next time.